Hello. Right, I was going to do a video of my other camera, but battery went flat and then my charger went flat, so I couldn't do that. So I'm using the GoPro. Don't know how that's going to turn out, but we'll see. Just had a request from a member to do if I could do a basic hop up and barrel change. It's a very simple thing to do, and it can make a lot of difference to your gun. Obviously the hop-up unit is what gives your BB backspin, which allows you to hit targets further away. It's also what can give you the precision that you need so that your BBs actually come out straight. And I'll go into that a little bit more as we get to the hop-up unit. So this is going to be for M4 based airsoft guns. But you can apply it to pretty much any gun. The only bit that will be different will be how you disassemble your upper and lower receiver. So this is a basic M4. This is a little short barrel one. And what we need to do first is separate the upper receiver from the lower receiver so that we can get access to the hop-up and barrel. To do that, M4s, they normally have 2 pins, or they will have 2 screws or 2 bolts at either end that hold the upper and lower receiver together. So we need to remove them first. This one's got 2 pins, and it's just a matter of knocking the pins out. 1, 2. Pull the pins out. You can't get the pins wrong when you put them back. The one at the back is flared and round, and the one at the front is D-shaped, so you can't get them wrong. Put them to one side. Now we need to slide the upper and lower receiver part. Make sure before you do this you got your battery disconnected, so you're not going to damage your gun or yourself. Obviously, magazine out. All your basic common sense safety things. So now we can just, as you can see, it's already started separating. Some weapons, as you're sliding them off, they have a little lip on the motor, and you need to pull the charging handle back, like I'm doing now, just to lift it off. There we go. It just slides away. As you can see this motor here has a little lip, which the charging handle gets stuck on, so you need to give it a little bit of a pull as you slide off. This is your motor or your gearbox, and there's your air nozzle, which is what seals itself with the hop-up unit to fire BBs, basically. Right, put that to one side. Now tilt the upper receiver upside down, and we should just be able to slide this out. A bit finicky sometimes, depending if the charging handle's in the way. There you go. Pull the charging handle back a little bit and just help me get that out. And now we can put the upper receiver away. Right, obviously this has got a short little barrel, but your rifle will probably have a lot longer one. But it's the same thing. So this is your hop-up unit and barrel. On the M4 there are 2 types of hop-up unit. There's this standard cog version, and some use a rotary version. I prefer the rotary version, they're just easier to disassemble and assemble, and I just find them easier to use as well, less finicky. You can't, unfortunately, switch one for the other. So if your weapon uses the cog version, then it is the cog version you need to replace it with. And the reason being is there's a height difference. If I had a rotary version and I wanted to put a cog version in, as I slide the barrel in, I probably won't have enough room at the top of the receiver, so it'll probably either start bending or be putting pressure down towards the magazine, the receiver probably wouldn't close properly, and so on. And the same goes for this one. It'll either be too loose, too much movement. It might create a slight kink, so you might not get a good seal with the air nozzle. You might have magazine feeding issues and so on. So they're not compatible. It's just pot luck which one you get in the weapon at the time. Right, so pop-up unit, barrel. We now need to separate the two. To do that, we have a little C-clip here. Sometimes you can just pull these off with your fingers, but you can just get a little flathead screwdriver in there and just pulls off. And put your little C-clip to one part. Once you've done that, you can slide your barrel out. Here's your bucking, which you can just pull off, he says, without being able to pull it off. There we go. Careful not to tear it if it's wedged on like this one is. There we go. And this exposes your barrel. This is a good time to clean the inner of your barrel because you've got it out. And you can get cleaning tube all the way in. So this is the top of your barrel where the bucking nub pushes down to spin your BBs. I'll try and include a little diagram of how a hop-up unit actually works for those that aren't sure. I'll try and include that in the video if I find a good little example. Right, so this is your hop-up unit. Now you might, as you pull the barrel out, you might have a little rubber nub that falls out. Tiny little rubber thing. That's your hop-up nub, and that's what pushes down on your bucking to the degree that you want it to create more or less spin on your BB. Now to get to that, I'm not going to do it on these because they're quite finicky and it can end up turning a 5-minute job into a half-an-hour job. They work the same, but they disassemble different. So the rotary ones, you've got a little C-clip on here that you can just pull off like that. Little C-clip. That gives you access to the rotary unit. It comes off, and you'll see that on these there's a little lip here, which is where this groove unit sits, so that as you turn it, it basically raises and lowers the arm as to how you want it. Now a lot of these are actually permanently fixed, the arms are permanently fixed in place, which is a good thing, you can't lose it. You can knock the pin out, take the arm off, and again you do the nub replacement. It's exactly the same at this stage to that. It's just this two little bits that are different, but works in the same way. So now I'm just going to check my nubs in here. So you know what? Let's do this. Let's take this apart. It'll be good to see. It might be a bit of a longer video, but we'll do it and then it's done. So disassemble this. Might be worth saying that if you're doing things like this, it might be worth buying a mobile repair kit. They've just got every little bit you'll need to do the job. Alright, so that one's off and out of the way. I'm going to see, no, I won't go away with that. We need to remove the second one now. Switch heads. And this is one of those little clamps I said is a pain behind to remove. Slowly. until it actually pings when you find it. What's there? Probably fast forward a bit on this because that's what we're spending 2 hours on this. Aha! Okay, so I cheated a little bit. So I lifted the clamp up enough to pull the center cog up and remove the top one. So that's one way of doing it. Right, there you go. As you can see, look, that's my hop-up arm with the spring attached, which is nice. And there's a little groove here, which is where my hop-up nub will sit. I'll slot in just like that, so that when I've got my barrel, my bucking in, close it down, and it will sit hopefully in the center. Okay, so that's that done. So we've given our barrel a nice clean inside and out. It's looking nice and shiny. Now some barrels like this one is grooved on the bottom. It's got a little groove that runs a certain way up, and it's to indicate that that is the bottom barrel and that is the top of the barrel. So you might have on your bucking a groove as well. Very simple. Groove matches with groove. Slides on. Get that. You want it to go, you want the bucking to go all the way up, but you don't want it to be forcing its way out of the little lip that's on here. You want this little lip to be smooth, and the reason is, if I get the lower receiver here quickly, so the bucking is what connects with the nozzle on your lower receiver. As you see, it slots in there. There's not much that fits. It's just that little lip. So if you've got your barrel all the way in and forcing all the way out, you're removing that little lip where your nozzle connects, which creates the good seal. It doesn't quite fit like this. It doesn't quite go like this in, but that's how you would want it to sit ideally once they connect. You want that to be, you want that nozzle to be getting as much of a seal around that as you can. So that's why you don't force the barrel all the way into the end. Right, I've done that. Now, quick little tip, a lot of people will show you. You get some plumbing tape, and we can improve that seal on the bucking. Try to keep this, don't need loads. This is just ordinary plumbing tape, Teflon tape. Put this on. I want it to go as nicely as we can get it. As neatly as possible. Doesn't have to be loads of it because it's thin stuff. But it is air and watertight. There we go. So that's nice and sealed now, that's nice and airtight. It's not too thick, we can still see the grooves on either side where the C-clamp clips in. We know where the top is because we can feel the little indentation. We can now put it back into the actual unit. We can just start sliding it in. Oh, there we go. Nice seal. And we stop when we can see the indentation. You'll know anyway, can't really go any further. So let's put the C-clip back on to retain that in place. There we go. Now, that should center your barrel, but we can have a look to see if it is centered once we do the nub. So now we want to do the nub, and the easiest way I've found to do this is you get your nub, you might not be able to see, but you put it on the end of the arm like so, and then you feed the unit onto the arm, and this way there's no chance of it coming off. And you hold that down, and then we get the top cog, and we align it so that it goes all the way through when possible. We want it to go all the way through and out the other side. Which is there, he says. Well, that doesn't feel quite right. Maybe that's the wrong one. There we go. Note to self, make sure you're using the right part. I'll show you in a minute, but there is... There we go. Okay, so once that's in, we can put a C-clamp on the end of that. To stop that coming off, like so. We can now push down, I keep calling it C-clamp, this ring clamp, sorry. Push down this ring clamp so that our two cogs are now touching properly and are seated correctly, and they're not going to wobble about. We can now put on the driving cog. By the way, these aren't the official names, just what I'm calling them. Doesn't matter what you call them as long as you know what you're doing. Do that up, doesn't have to be super tight, just tight enough it's not going to come off. And now we have movement, which is exactly what we want. We want to be able to turn it fully one way and see the arm go down, and we want to turn it the other way and see the arm go up. Now, I'm going to try and adjust the camera here slightly so you can see. You might not be able to see, but I'm going to give it a good go for you guys anyway. So here we have down the barrel, and as we lower the arm, we should start to see from the top the nub come down. I hope you guys can see that, but the nub comes down. So we know if we've got our barrel centered by how centered that nub is. And if it's not, it'll be just a matter of twisting the barrel until you think, yeah, that's centered, that's where I want it. Excellent. So that's that. Just the camera back down again. Whee. Excellent. Next bit we need is the ring, the retention ring. Just a bit of metal. Sometimes it's plastic, sometimes it's metal. But all this does is wedges itself into the hop-up unit, and it just helps centralize the barrel. I like to use a little flathead to help tuck it in as much as possible. There we go. Nice and tucked in. Centralizes the barrel. Back at it. Sorry, someone knocked at the door. Yeah, so we're tucking this ring in as we go. Take your time doing it, there's no rush. Yeah, that'll do. It'll sort itself out. Right, so that's that. So you've essentially now replaced your barrel. Your hop-up unit. You could have changed the bucking as well for a better one, and you could have changed your nub as well. A couple of different types of nubs. The one that I'm using is obviously the standard cylindrical nub. Different types of buckings as well. So the nub I like to use is called a flat hop nub. Now if we picture, I'm just going to use a fuse. So if this is my nub and I'm lowering it, as the BB comes through, it hits the nub and creates backspin, which is what gives you lift and so on. Now if that nub, for one, it's only got very little contact surface because it's cylindrical shape, and second, it could be slightly off, this is an exaggeration, one way or the other, which will create uneven spin, which is what can lead to your BB sometimes shooting one way and then sometimes shooting the other way. It's annoying. So flat hop I like to use is essentially the same sort of thing, but it is what it says, it's flat. So as the BB comes down, it has more surface to contact with, creating a more even central spin. And it's a simple, quick replacement. You just replace it for your old nub and so on. With the buckings, you'll notice when you look for them, there are different types and there are different degrees. The degrees aren't angle degrees, they are temperature degrees, and sorry, they're not temperature degrees either, they are hardness degrees. The harder degree you go, the higher FPS weapon you're probably using. For M4, AK, AEG based weapons, between 50 and 60 is what I would recommend in terms of degree. You don't want to go any more than that, otherwise your hop-up's not going to be as effective because you have a lower FPS, and that hop-up rubber is going to actually be taking FPS out of your gun. So you don't want to go any higher than that unless you're running higher FPS. So that's basic hop-ups. Done all of that, it's time to now put this back in. You get your receiver. You align the barrel as best as you can, or you don't, like I am. How hard can it be? There we go. All the way. And you'll notice your spring starts to take action as it gets itself slotted in there. So that's in. All that way, because you can see my charging. There we go. There we go. You've got a little spring action there. So you know that's situated in place. We get the upper receiver out, and we do the exact opposite to what we did when we disassembled it. Sometimes you have your charging handle has a plate, which is what covers up the hop-up unit when you pull it back, and that can be really fiddly and gets in the way. It's good if it doesn't, but it's just a matter of come this way so I don't block the camera view so much. getting it over that little hill again. Keep sliding, working your way, and trying not to lose your temper with it. That's how we break things. Come on. Almost there. He says, last famous words. There we go, we're getting somewhere now. There we go. Nice, on, it's all aligned correctly. Flip it the other way round. We get our deep in. Pop it in. Give it a little batter. Self down. There we go. Get the other pin. Pop it in. And we now have working M4. We've changed the hop-up unit. We can adjust the hop-up unit. Change the barrel. Hopefully this little tutorial, little video helps. Hopefully explains. And I'll see you in the next video.